Good day, everybody. I thought I'd just have a little update. I haven't made any videos on my D2 lately since I made the little edited video the other day from changing that bearing in the pony motor idler gear, or pulley I should say. That turned out pretty well. As you can see, it's all buried down in there now. But if you noticed, maybe in the last video at the very end, for those that stayed to the very end, which I was kind of sticking my ear down in there pretty close to that magneto, and I found out that the magneto was making a kind of a clattering sound, which I thought that probably is not good. So now I've had that magneto all apart, and it fired really well. So I was kind of baffled, actually. What could it possibly be? Everything's all been greased and everything. So I tore the boat magneto apart, kind of looked at everything, checked everything out, checked the clearances, changed a few little items, put it all back together. It ran, sounded good for about 15 minutes, and it started doing it again. Well, on these magnetos, there's a bushing. There's the armature, rotor, excuse me. The rotor has two ball bearings on it, has a little gear, and it goes up, and it has a gear that runs the shaft on the points. Well, that bushing in there had basically seized up and was seizing on the shaft just a little bit as it ran. So I put some grease on it and cleaned it up, getting the burrs, put it back together. It lasted about 15 minutes, started doing it again. So I went to my junk pile and got another one. It looked really good. Put it all together, greased it all up, put it all together. Well, lasted about 15 minutes, did it again. So I got to looking at it a little closer and looked at some manuals about the American Bosch magneto that's in this tractor. And I found out that the bearings that hold that rotor, they're kind of a unique little beast. This is kind of hard to do without one-handed, so you'll have to forgive me here. Anyway, they come apart. You can see there's this piece, the inner and the outer. Well, this guy here, there's a little groove in there. That's about it. It presses into the back of the magneto case, and this little guy, of course, it goes on the rotor on the shaft. Well, I had to get pretty. There's no way to catch them. There's no pockets. There's no way to get to the back side of them. They're all flush in there, real tight. So I couldn't figure out how to get that thing out. I come up with a plan, and I used a concrete anchor. You know what that is? It's a bolt. It has a taper, like a cone on it. It has the two wings, or three on this one. Had three wings that expand out. As you tighten that nut up, it expands out. And what it's supposed to do, expand up to the, put pressure on the concrete, and that way it doesn't pull out and holds, anything from a grinder stand to they make them to where they put them in, hold auto lifts in. So they're pretty good, pretty stout. So I got one of those and got those little wings in there in this little bitty ball bearing groove. Very shallow. It may be 10 thousandths. Got it in there, put that in there, and believe it or not, that pulled that bearing out. I was amazed is what it was. I thought, so on this one here, I just happened to have, I bought this thing 20 years ago. It's like a little ball, a bearing separator. And I bought it off of eBay or something like that years ago. You know, seen the pictures of it. I thought, oh yeah, that'd be nice. You know, the price is pretty good, you know. I got it back, and it was, the bearing separator was just itty bitty. They didn't really have any dimensions in the ad. So I had this little bitty bearing separator, and the ad, it looked like, you know, it was a big, you know, OTC, you know, pulls 5-inch bearings out, but actually it was just a little dinky, here's a toy. And I thought, you know, I'll never use this, but I just can't bear it. Oh, if anything else, I was going to keep it on hand just to remind myself to, hey, make sure to check the fine print before you buy anything off of the computer anymore. So I actually got to use it. After 20 years, I got to use this tool. I put it on there, on this bearing race, tightened it up, pulled it right off. I was like, well, it pays to have the proper tool laying around. So I got that off, but when I pulled this here, this part out, this race, there's a piece of paper in between the case of the magneto and basically that bearing has to be insulated from the rest of the magneto for it to work. Well, that's a new one on me, so I got to do some more reading. It appears that it's a paper, and it's plasticized is what they call it. Well, I was fresh out of plasticized, or whatever you want to say, magneto bearing insulating paper. I know, I'm unprepared, but anyway, I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? All it's got to do is insulate that and be about 10 thousandths thick. I looked around the shop here and I seen the roll of black tape there. And I'm like, you know what? I bet that'll work. Got my calipers out, checked that tape. It is right at 10 thousandths thick. Put that around that bearing, around the bottom of it, and I got that and pressed that bearing race in there, and it worked perfect. Trimmed it with an X-Acto knife. Put the magneto together with the new bearings, put a little grease in there, started it up, and so far it's been quiet as a mouse. Well, as quiet as a pony motor can be with no muffler on it. But if anybody comes across this again and don't know what to do, hopefully that'll help. But these are magneto bearings are kind of a very interesting bearing, to say the least. This one here was an E15, I think was the number on it. The actual Caterpillar number is a 9B9476. So, place I got it was like a warehouse. They had like 3 of them in stock. I got them all. They weren't that expensive. So I figured I got a couple of these magnetos around. I'll have some to fix the rest of them. So after I got through that, put it all back together. Pony motor's running good. Starts good. Oh, I have to admit, I decided when I got the other magneto, I put the other points and condenser in there. And when you got it revved up, you know, 3,000 RPM or so, it popped and cracked and went on, and I'm like, aha, I know what that is. That's a condenser. So I put my other condenser in there and set the points again and made sure everything was timed up, and lo and behold, she works just fine. So I decided to continue on. Well, here's another thing that's been perplexing me for quite some time was my battery box. I even asked a little bit about this on the last video, or one of the videos. Well, my battery box, there's a set of holes here and a set of holes here. Well, I had it in these holes here. Should be another set of holes on farther back. Well, I put in these other holes. I was like, I'm not going to have enough room to get onto the tractor. It's pretty tight, you know. But this way I could get to my pony motor dipstick and work in here to do some things. And this wire here that runs runs up here, with it back farther, it's the correct length for the, goes right up there to the amps gauge. I got this battery box from Chad Ennert, and I don't know, I'm probably butchering his last name, I'm sorry. But anyway, he's from Wyoming. He sells tractor parts, and he helped me out on my pony exhaust manifold. And I asked, he just basically, it had a rust hole in the pipe, and he says, well, I'm just going to give it to you if you pay for the shipping. I said, well, I need a battery box. Sell me a battery box, and you can throw that inside of it. And he says, it sounds like a great deal. So I got a battery box, he got a little money, everybody's happy. Sorry about that, my thumb got in the way. Anyway, here's the original amp gauge. It was all rusty and nasty, and I opened it up with a can opener, tore it all apart, cleaned it all up, sanded it, inside, and, took the thing on there. Anyway, that's, well, it was sitting right at 0. Now it's showing a little bit of charge, so I don't know, probably bumped it a little bit when I was messing around. But anyway, it works. I put my battery charger, had it all hooked up to the battery, put the battery charger, hooked it up there to the generator, put it on the lowest setting to see what it'd show, and it matches the amps gauge on my battery charger just perfectly. So that was an unexpected win. And on this battery box, there's like a holder inside, kind of like a saddle, and it has these little rubber blocks. Well, on these rubber blocks, they were all ripped out because, they're only probably, 50 to 70 years old or so. Well, probably, yeah, every bit of 70 years old. But anyway, I decided to drill a hole through with the two pieces, and I got some glue. Actually, it's a Gorilla Glue. I took that Gorilla Glue and I glued that rubber together, and then tightened that rubber up with my nut and a bolt that I put in there and washers on it, and tightened it up real good, and put that together. And I took the bolt out, and it seems to be holding really well, but I went ahead and just put my little bolt, it's just about the size of a, I don't know, probably a number 832 bolt or something like that. Trimmed them off real good and just left them in there. I don't see why they would hurt, but it'd keep the two rubber pieces from coming together. But so I got to save that, and I made a hold down bracket for the top of the battery. And if anybody's, I don't know, this was just mine, but I bought a Group 1 6-volt battery for this. And actually, this box is made for a Group 2. So if anybody wants to go buy a battery for one of these, and it's got a box like this, I guess it takes a Group 2. So but I just stuck with the Group 1. I already bought the battery. The batteries are, well, it cranks over just fine the way it is. Here's one of my eBay finds. This is a genuine cat. I don't know if it's for a D2 or not, but it's a light switch, but it's an actual cat one. So one there, I think I gave 15 or 20 bucks for it, shipped to the house. So it doesn't have quite the right knob. They say the other knobs will fit on there, but I don't have one. That somebody had helped themselves to help me out by taking that out of the way, whenever they tore it all apart. Got me some gauges, got them from, I think they're CTP. They're not the best gauges at all, but, well, I think they'll work just fine. Yeah, got Got these rings here, these adapter rings from Caterpillar. They're about $9 a piece. I know I could have made them myself, but it's just like, I just decided at this point, I'm just buying them. So, yeah, I know, it was the easy button, but I had to go there. My light is for a John Deere tractor, Model A, B, something like that. But the original one, you know, I don't know if you can see it or not. Of course not. But you can see maybe there's 3 little holes that you come in from the backside and screwed that in there, and there's one big hole in the middle. Well, I thought that hole wasn't as big as it was, but I got it anyway because I was just about, you know, you couldn't find the original one. Nobody had an old one that I could tear apart and fix or whatever, so I just bought it to see what it was going to be like. And I took it out of the box and it was like, boy, that looks real close to fitting that hole. Sure enough, once I got it here, it fit in that hole. Just, it wouldn't quite fit all the way, but I took a little rat tail file and just kind of cleaned all the paint off around it, and it worked. Just went in there and bolted right in. That new switch fit right where the old one is. It's a big rotary switch. So if anybody's got a pony motor drain that's the cast one, I'd be interested in it, because this one here, this pony motor, I've decided is off of a D4. That's drain off of a D4. The exhaust pipe was for a D4. Anyway, that one does not work on a D2 because doesn't fit this. It's too close to the back of the block. So I could probably heat it up and bend it or whatever, but I ain't doing that. So, what else I did? I took this little brass compression release. Actually, I don't think that's what it's for. I think it's supposed to, whenever it doesn't start and gets all flooded, I think you're supposed to turn them drain. They're in the very bottom of the head, and you pull your rope or crank your pony motor starter, and you crank that, and you can blow all the gasoline out of the motor so it doesn't sit there and foul the rings or whatever. Probably a not bad thing to put on there. But anyway, this one leaked. It put a bunch of black nasty stuff on the side of the block and stuff. So I took that thing apart and I got some what was that stuff? Anyway, it's for rubbing compound for cars. Got in there and cleaned that up, just sit there and just basically, fitted those two pieces together with toward the spring and the bolt off the backside of it, and cranked on that until it fit really well, and tried it, and it sealed right up. I did the gas valve on the other side. It's got a non-original gas valve on the other side. So I can't find the original one, and the one from Caterpillar's like, $90, and well, I guess maybe someday, but right now I could spend $90 on this thing somewhere else. What's it? Here's the starting system. I worked this over really well. You can see I've made all the wires and stuff to crank the pony motor, and I got a new solenoid for it. It's a Presto Light style solenoid. But you can see this is a regular old welding cable inside. I think it's a 2/0. Got the real fine wire in it for the 6-volt system. Regular old battery cable for a 12-volt will not work on these things. They got to have that real fine welding wire type battery cables, big heavy gauge, because that's the 6-volt. That's what makes them work. I've had like this old Ford truck I'm working on here. It's 6-volt. Turns over the everybody tells me, oh, pick it 12-volt, it'll start so much better. It's like, no, It worked 6-volt when it was new. It's been 6-volt all its life. I don't want to jack with the gauges and burn anything out of it, you know. So anyway, I did some more research on this, and I looked at the manual, you know, the parts book, and it shows this, you know, armored cable. I'm like, where am I going to find that? So I went down to the hardware store, and lo and behold, I had to buy way more than I'd ever use in my lifetime. But they had this stuff, aluminum. I always called it BX cable, but it's just armor shielding. Didn't have any of the wire inside of it. It wasn't that bad, but we got that anyway. So now, some of you guys, you purists or whatever, may be like, what has he done? Put this battery cable run on the outside like that. Well, I have researched as in I've got on the internet and looked at every one of these tractors I've ever seen that was for sale and seen where the battery box was, because I have no clue. I don't know. This tractor was in a basket, several baskets when I bought it. So I started looking and I found a tractor. It had a blade on it, so it had the hydraulics that run across there. But it had the battery box right where I got this one at. And the cable ran just like that. So I was like, well, there's got to be something to hold that wire up. Well, I had that panel off for working on the pony, and I started looking at the back side of it. And I was looking at the back side, and there was 2 holes that somebody had put Bondo or something in it, trying to paint it or whatever. Put that beautiful red primer that everybody so enjoys. And I found these 2 holes, and I thought, Eureka. I know what them holes are for. Those are for an Adel clamp to hold that BX cable, shielded cable up there to go to the battery box. So I had some of them Adel clamps, put them on that, and this is what I come up with. I don't know. Kind of looks like a, you know, Danger Will Robinson, but that's what it, but I don't know. We'll just have to see how well it's been received with the rest of the world. I think it looks all right. I don't know. I mean, pretty safe. It's not gonna, since it's aluminum, and I got on the ends, I got this really, really heavy vinyl heat shrink. I put on the end of the wire and heat shrinked it, you know, 2 thicknesses so it can't cut it anyway. So that's what I come up with. That's what I think it's supposed to be. So, well, like I said, if anybody has any better ideas, I'd love to hear it. The other day, I got 100 subscribers. Can you believe that? There's 100 people wanting to listen to some of this crap that I've been putting out. But anyway, I'm going to take it. I'm proud. Not too bad for a guy working on, you know, an old tractor in his garage. So, appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy what we're doing here. I don't want to make any money or anything like that. I'm just wanting to share the experience and maybe help somebody else out along the way. That's all I care about. So hopefully I'll get a gas tank put on this little feller, and we'll see if we can put a load on it and take care of its cold it has. It got a snotty nose. It wants to blow a bunch of the old black stuff out, and everybody I've talked to has basically said she ain't broke in yet. Just get her hot and we'll see what happens. And I'm like, well, she's got to be in better shape before I'm going to take it out to flog it, you know, take it to somebody else's place and try to run it. I want to make sure it's going to run right and be able to have gauges on it and, you know, keep an eye on it. So hopefully the next time you'll see it, the gas tank will be all on it. It'll have a hood. It's like Mater, it doesn't have a hood. But hey, thanks for watching. If you like this, subscribe, hit the like button if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. Talk to you next time. Bye.